Previously on Mike's Musings. Mikeitz. After some time has passed, that's the name of the Parsha. After time passes. It doesn't describe what we're about to hear. It doesn't describe what we're about to learn. It almost feels like an episode of 24, Lost, something. Gives us a sense of an in-between. We know that the end is maybe coming. Ironically, this week's Parsha, the end is one of the craziest cliffhangers in the Bible. But really, this Parsha starts off with after time has passed. This week's Parsha is the main character arc of Yosef. Yosef, who we refer to as the person who is Yesod. He is the secret, the revealer of secrets. He is the one who can translate dreams, bring them into reality. This is the main character arc for him. And so much so that the two key narratives of the Parsha, starting off at the beginning with him being brought out of jail and interpreting Pharaoh's dreams, and culminating at the end with him meeting his brothers twice and trying to get, I guess, in a way through to them that he is their brother and see if they've repented and try and reconnect as a family. These two main arcs are really the shift of Yosef from being Yesod, which is Dalid, Yesod, the ending of the word, lacking in a way, to Yosef, ending with Peh. Literally refers to mouth, one who can speak and translate change into the world. So let's look at this beginning. Yosef is brought up by Paro to translate his dreams. Paro wakes up, he says, I had these weird dreams, they're prophetic. They're obviously prophetic. I don't know in what way, I need prophecy. He turns to his advisors, they say, maybe we know, we don't know, whatever. Eventually, he gets told, there's a wise man who can translate dreams down in a dungeon. Go bring him out. So Yosef gets brought up. And he translates these dreams. Now, if you think about Yosef in the context of the narrative that we have so far, Yosef he's a translator of dreams. He certainly is a dreamer himself. But at this point, he's on his third dream. So if we look at those three dream translations, at least the ones that are written in the Torah, we have first set of dreams is his translation of his story to his brothers and his father. And in a way, they are kind of a naive translation. They're him being prophetic without really saying how any of this is going to happen, no action, just prophesizing. One day you guys will bow down to me. And he really rubs them the wrong way. The second set of dreams is kind of consultation. So he meets with the bread maker and the winemaker in jail, and he tells them, look, this is what your dreams mean. This is what's going to happen. And interestingly, the third set of dreams is where he shifts into this character by taking on accountability. And you can see this directly in the way that he speaks to Paro. So he tells Paro what the dreams mean. Interestingly, there's these combinations of Sheva and Sheva, 7, cows, and then 7 fat cows, and then skinny cows, and there's wheat, and also comes, from the Lashon of Teva. Maybe the way these dreams are going to come through is going to be in a natural way. There will be natural plenty, and then there will be natural famine and a lack of abundance, and that's a side story anyway. He tells Paro at the end, unsolicited, he says, Ve'ata Yireh Paro ish. Find a man. And he tells him to find this man, and he gives Paro a recommendation. He shifts his translation of dreams from one that is naive and just stating the facts, from one that is naive and just telling people, this is what's going to happen, to one where he includes recommendations. And so much so that when he makes this shift ends up being something that Paro recognizes in him as clearly he becomes the recommended person to act through this recommendation. So Yosef adopts the peh that he needs in this case, and he goes from being one who just understands Yesod to being one who can clearly carry the mantle of bringing these Yesods into this world. Paro turns to his advisors around him and he says, guys, can we find such a prophetic person, such a wise and understanding person? We've never seen anybody like this person, Paro says. So he makes him immediately the person to carry out the bringing of these dreams into action. Yosef becomes half the time known just as Ish. You think about Pirkei Avos, b'makom she'en anashim hishtadel liyos Ish. He becomes a person of responsibility. This is the way that he steps up to the plate. And as we think about the next narrative, Yosef goes and he meets his brothers. And there's something kind of interesting that happens. In a way, he shows them the yesod, that who he is. He gives them there's a lot of Ramazim that are brought down, different indications of who he was in the ways that he showed them. You think about, he sees them all come in through different gates. They try and be spies. He calls them liars many times. It's quite a confrontation in the grand scheme of things. But there's a number of different things that Yosef does to give them the opportunity to recognize who he is. And at the time, they have a fog. They can't see who he is. So what are some of these things? We'll just go through them real quick. When they come in, he gets them seated in their birth order. How he could know that, we don't know, but he finds a way. In the first time that they come, he sends them home and he says, go bring back your youngest brother. But he does it. He binds Shimon. And why would he bind Shimon? Shimon was the one person who sought to kill him last time. He was the leader of the Let's Kill Him group before he was sold into slavery. You think about later in the Parshat, it describes how when he brings them back for a meal, he orders that a meal be prepared and that the animal should be prepared in a specific way. And Medrash brings down that the way that the animal should be prepared is with the gid anasha removed. So clearly, he's bringing back this cow that doesn't have now this hindquarters that normally you would eat, but he brings it back to show them again who he is. Think about the way that he sends Binyamin off. What does he do? He shows them that this is a cup that he uses for divining. He uses it to tell the future. And then he puts that exact cup, this magical cup, back in Binyamin's saddlebag. The same exact story of the way that his own mother, Rachel, took the divining idols of Lavan, her father, when they ran away, so that in some way, Lavan wouldn't be able to divine that they were leaving. He wouldn't know. He wouldn't be able to follow them. And I think there's something very interesting about all of this, because these are all echoes from a time when Yosef was very young, especially in relation to his brothers. And he shows them all of these things as a way that allows them to acknowledge, this is something that we should remember. But they don't remember it at this time. We'll get into a little bit more of this in next week's Parsha, when Yehuda steps up in a much bigger way and really becomes the king. But we think about this is the preparation, and oftentimes we talk about this, and we talked about it a little bit last week. Mashiach ben Yosef is the Messiah that brings the world into a state of preparedness. And then Mashiach ben Yehuda can have the Malchus, brings the kingship into the world to be able to really bring the salvation. This avodah of Yosef is really what brings this to life. This shift from him being able to translate Yesod into Peh, to take responsibility and become an Ish. Each time they talk to their father, say, this Ish told us to do stuff. This Ish told us. They can't understand who he is. He's responsible in a way that Yosef never was. We can't understand him. So Rav Dessler brings down actually a very interesting kind of a explanation for this. There are two different ways that you could light up a room. One, you could bring in a big torch, flick a switch, whatever it is, electronics, however you're going to do these things. Or you could continuously add more candles. And one is a slow and steady kind of a path, and the other one is kind of a switch. And Mikeitz, the name of the Parsha itself, is the description of this transition for Yosef. I remember my grade 6 report card. Has so much potential. Still not sure we're living up to it. Anyway, whatever. One of the things that we do when we talk about what it means to be able to live up to that potential is to be able to, carry your full cup, to be able to have a full kais. One of the things that we learn also is that the challenge in life is not just to be able to fill up your cup. If you ever filled up a very heavy cup or a full cup fully and tried to go for a walk, you can't go so far. This is the ability to both handle your talents, bring them into this world, but also to make a difference with them, and that's the midah of Yosef. And years later, the reason why the Parsha starts with that, Mikeitz, is telling us that after time has passed, Yosef has done his work. He wasn't sure when it was going to work out, but he keeps doing his work. And at a certain point, Paro pulls him out of the dungeon and says, "You're going to be the Ish now, because you have decided that it's time for you to carry your own cup." But there's an interesting connection here with this story of light from Rav Dessler to the time that this Parsha is going to fall on. This Parsha is going to fall on Rosh Chodesh Chanukah, on a Shabbos of Rosh Chodesh Chanukah. So we always read Parsha on Shabbos, but this week specifically it's on Rosh Chodesh. And I think if we take a step back and reflect on what it is that this Parsha really is, Parshas Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is the time of renewal of light. The day of Rosh Chodesh, there is no light. The moon at night is not visible at all. But at the same time, this week, in this time, we're bringing in Chanukah, which is a light in the darkness. And that is to illuminate when we can't see. And at the same time, it falls on a Shabbos, which is a time when we focus on our inner light. We don't try and do things to change the world. We just focus on what we are. We are a keli for a light ourselves. We focus on just being. So I was thinking about this week, looking at what happened in Australia and Brown University. I can't even look at the news anymore. I don't know, it just gets in I don't have words for really what it is. But I was also thinking about this last night as I was looking at the candles, spending some time just sitting there in the darkness with small lights in front of me. And I was reflecting on the fact that this is a time where we get to light candles like generations before us. But also, we get to light candles in commemoration of a time where people didn't do this. There was no tradition. There was a darkness, and they weren't sure what to do. And they were mishtadel liot ish. They got up and they said nobody else is doing something, and they took some responsibility. And I think in a way, the bringing together of this Parsha with this Shabbos Chanukah allows us a time of renewal, allows us a time of illumination in darkness, allows us a time to reflect on the fact that we are a vessel for that light. And that even though the Parsha ends with a cliffhanger, at the end there is some kind of, reconciliation of family, a bringing together of us as a nation, and a way for us to move forward in positivity in the coming weeks to come. Azoi. Shkoyach.